Hey, I'm so excited to be doing this guide and this walkthrough in particular because Clock Tower and I go way back. For one thing, it was way back when I was in middle school, so probably technically too young to be playing it. The sequel to it, the one that for years was the only one that came out in America, was one of the reasons I developed such a love for the horror genre. It was the Clock Tower, scary stories to tell in the dark, Goosebumps, and Resident Evil, actually, which I only fully played a little bit after playing Clock Tower. These were the bedrock of my introduction to the genre, my love of the horror genre, which I have very much to this day. And actually, the Clock Tower in particular is responsible for my fascination with the slasher genre and the giallo genre. So I'm excited to finally be having this. And actually, back in the day, a lot of you that were in the Clock Tower community for a long time now might actually recognize this. You see, back in the day, I made, when I was in high school, a guide to Clock Tower, this Clock Tower, the original that I was playing on an emulator. And I made this on GameFAQs, and my name there was MrMasonW2DS. And actually later, I found out that Damon Machina there had made a map of it, and this was years later. And the map he made of the Barrows Mansion was based on the map that I had included in my guide. And so I thought that was really cool. And when that he had actually made that based on my guide and had referenced me. So then I actually typed my screen name into Google or whatever search engine I was using back then to see if anybody else had referenced me. And through that, I found myself referenced in a blog on a site called Don't Cry Jennifer Forums, where Enigma Pia had actually, made a whole site dedicated to this game, to the Clock Tower series, actually. So I became a member there under the same name, MrMasonW2DS. So any of you in the Clock Tower community who were around back then, hi, and it would be great to hear from you in the comments or whatever. It's great to be here, great to have this game finally released outside of Japan with a lot of extras as it comes. So there's lots of extra goodies that go with it, and for this guide, all I'm doing is making a guide for the endings. I'm not making a guide for all the achievements and everything, but I'm still so excited with it. So there are two versions here. You can play the original version, which is the version that was in the Super Famicom, and actually the only version I had played until Clock Tower Rewind came out. I think at one point I might have briefly played the first Fear edition, but I never played that extensively. So this was actually my introduction. The Rewind was my introduction to the first Fear edition, which is included here, but they even have more extras than that. Now we're going to play the Rewind edition for this guide, but I'll try to make notes of some differences that you would do in the original. So we're going to go here to this file so that I can start with a fresh blank slate for the endings. I remember a time when I had, because I was probably in high school or maybe halfway through high school even. It might have been not long before I actually made the guide when I finally was able to get this game on an emulator. Until then, I knew it existed about sometime shortly after I played the sequel. And it was a big mystery to me. So it was exciting to ever even find this, to be able to finally play it the very first time all those years ago. And that kind of excitement is back now. It's back in full gear for this release. So I really just have such a strong affection for this game, for this series. So let's go and let's start. We can see that our ending list is empty for now. Won't be for long. And you can do quick start, but I'm going to do the actual game start because I want to play through this in a way like it was with the full effect of the story and everything. So I do recommend at least doing the game start once because of the atmosphere and everything. And then on all the other playthroughs when you're just trying to fill up your ending roster, you could do quick start. It was September when Jennifer and her friends, who were all raised in the Granite Orphanage, received an offer to be adopted. This is how it all started. Forgive me, I just like to do a little bit of voice acting here. Which is going to be kind of hard in this game, but maybe I'll spring for it anyway, because, most of the characters, they're like, young girls here, and so... Laura, hurry up! It's going to be sundown before we get to the house. Miss Mary? What is it? The house we're going to live in from now on. Do you know what it's like? This is the 5th time since last night you've asked me that question. You don't need to worry. It's a very lovely house. I think we can see it from here. There it is. Yeah, forgive me for however corny the voice acting might be. I just kind of can't resist right now, so it's just something I kind of think is fun. Tidbit, I picture Miss Mary's voice being like the voice of the headmistress in Phenomena because that's who her character looks like. This house is so big. It really is. I can't believe this is only the main hall. I'm going to say hello to the owner of the house. You girls, wait for me here. I also think it's cool that in some of the motion captures, which won't actually happen during the game itself, that they have added voice acting now, so that's cool. All right, so first we're just going to talk to our friends. Hey, Anne. I wonder what kind of person Mr. Barrows is. Right? Yeah. Well, what? The house is big. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't think I'll ever like it here. Probably added a word there. Lot, you're such a worrywart. Hey, you should go check on her. Kind of bossy. You should go check on her, right? So anyway, let's go. Is Miss Mary okay? She's taking too long. Should I go check on her? Nah, it's fine. I'll do that. Alright, so now we just go on out the door and begin with the sinister music playing. Came from the main hall. So, what I like to do here when I play, just for the kind of plot value, the cinematic value, is I like to actually walk through the foyer, or run through it, however you want, because she has a very slow walking speed. And because, that's what you would do, right? In this situation, you would explore, because there was only the one door out on the first floor, so first come to the front door, see if your friends left, but it's locked, so the only other place they could have gone without passing by Jennifer would have been upstairs. Now, whenever you go upstairs in this game, make sure you're running first. And this is something that anybody who was played the original can tell you is a godsend. Because if you're running when you click on the stairs, if you're already running, Jennifer runs up the stairs now in this rewind edition. In the original version, and I'm assuming that they preserved this in the original version on this, she would only walk upstairs. She would not run. And I'm telling you, to use the phrase from the American South, it was as slow as molasses. And you had to sit through that every time she would go upstairs or downstairs. And even in this version, make sure she's running when you click on the stairs, because if you click on the stairs while she's walking and you let her get to the stairs walking, you can't cancel it and then go to running. So for now, we're still looking for our friends. And so now we know that we've done all we can here to look for our friends. They must have gone some other way. Logic would say they must have gone that way up there or something. So let's leave the room and start our exploring. Alright, so she's getting tired now already, and one quality of life update that I've seen in Rewind is that when you stop her by pressing the, what for me, I'm using the PS controller, the PS5 controller, so for me it's the triangle button. It'll be different for the Xbox controller. So, but the thing is, if you press that once, it makes her stop. If you press it twice, she'll go ahead and rest on this version, and she heals very quickly in this version. And I know that was something that they were responding to the fans about, no doubt, because that was one of the complaints. Because in this, unlike in the sequel, she gets fatigued just from the running, and that takes her one step closer to death. So I think they just made it so that she will heal so easily. You'll want to check this box because sometimes an important item is in it. Whether it is or not, I'm going to show you where it would be if it wasn't here. Here it's empty, so I'm going to have to show you that anyway, but I would have shown you in any event. So that's all that we needed to check in this room. So we're going to go through this door. And this is what I've always assumed was the master bedroom. It's what I called the master bedroom in my map in the old guide. So first we'll check the picture on this dresser here. What's this? I think in one of the translations, somebody's actually like, what's this thing? So, you know, but a little bit more tactful here, I guess. There's a small perfume bottle. This is the same perfume used by Miss Mary. You've obtained the perfume. Alright, so... uh-oh. Panic button, panic button. You'll need that a lot in the game. For me, it's the X button on the PS5 controller. It'll be, I think, the A button on the Xbox controller. A blanket rests on the bed. The bed on the left side doesn't look like it's being used. Alright, so in case you want to hide under this bed ever, you want to get this over with now. So check the parrot cage. I'm not actually sure if that beautiful, up-close, colorful picture of the parrot, I'm not sure that was in the original version. That might be something that was added in the First Fear edition. Again, I have no real familiarity with the First Fear edition until this version of the game, actually. And like I said, okay, so here you're going to want to select the bed so that you can wrap the parrot in the blanket. But like I said, there's another very important difference here with this Rewind version. I've heard that somebody was doing a ROM hack and they worked with that person to make this edition, because there's a difference here that is even different from the First Fear edition, at least as far as I've seen of the First Fear edition. And I'll get to that whenever it happens. I'm sure it will. The sound of dripping just behind that door. Fog in the bathroom. Okay, so let's open this door, actually. It'll make things easier in just a moment. A lot of you already know why. And it's not hard to guess. Now, I actually think that sprite for Laura was changed a bit for this version. Maybe it was changed for the first fear, because I think she was just wearing her normal blue clothes. But I think that here they changed the sprite to reflect that she seems to be dressed differently. And there's the Scissor Man. Now, you could actually open up the game in several different ways. There's 3 different ways you could, but we're going with this one for the guide. The others, I think you could do any of them and still go for the same ending. Okay, so run up these stairs because we want to hide in a place that's close to what we're going to do for our next step, so that we don't end up dragging things out more than we have to. So here at the far left, we want to go through this door. One thing that you may have already noticed, if you're new to this version of the game and all you had played before were the original Famicom edition and even the first Fear, I think. Okay, so do your panic button so she can climb over. You would notice that in those versions of the game, Scissor Man doesn't actually usually follow you through doors and stuff. He would if you went into a room like this, but like he wouldn't come out of a door in the background. And in a lot of the halls, he's already in them. Now, I think this was actually different too. Like in the original version, I think you just hid from him. You could throw the pesticide at him and it would do this, but he didn't just tip it over. Okay, we need to get out of this room quickly because she's losing her health. So I'm going to rest and let her get there. But anyway, so the difference in this is that in this version, Scissor Man actually does follow you from room to room through the door. He's not just already in the big hallways at some point ahead of you. He follows you through the doors, even if the door is in the background. And that's one of the changes that I think might come from the ROM hack that I mentioned before. So we're going to try to do this again. And she can't because it's too high to climb. I guess without the adrenaline of the psychopathic killer chasing you, it's she just doesn't have the energy to climb up there. Now this, it's like so many times in video games, it's why would you even pick it up in real life? I guess, we'll just chalk it up, because this story in particular, supernatural things happening. So let's just say that it's intuition, some kind of special intuition on her side against this supernatural evil. Now, getting this rope can help you in a certain kind of situation that may not even ever come up, but it can't hurt to have it. And now, the last thing we need in this room is this pesticide. So over here is where that item is. It's going to be a key. And we could have found it in the box in the living room, but since it wasn't there, that's one of the things that's randomized. And I think you can use this stick to jostle it, but I don't know that it actually helps you get the key. And it just upsets the bird that's in that nest, and I don't know if that has any kind of negative impact on the ending or not. So just to be better safe than sorry, we don't even try that. And that's one thing about the S ending. I'm sure that in some ways I'm overly cautious when it comes to the S ending, and that's because I was conditioned by back in the days. Because when I was first playing this game, I was piecing things together from other things I was reading, because I don't read Japanese, and I first played the game before there was a translation for it, or before I knew that there was a translation for it. So a lot of it was very mysterious to me, and I knew what was being said because of what I could piece together from other things, but I didn't know every detail. So the S guide in particular, the S ending, seemed really finicky, and it was hard to get and hard to stop it from being an A ending instead, it seemed. So the details for both of the highest endings in particular were harder to get. It's easier to get anything that's B or lower. Oh no. I just clicked this without running, and see, this is what now you get to see it from my own mistake here. This was what in the old version you had to do every time you wanted her to walk up or downstairs. There was no alternative to this. There was no chance to do anything differently from this. So we say thank you, Way Forward. Maybe that was in the ROM hack. So if so, thank you to the person who did the ROM hack that they worked with. So anyway, now at this point in time, we're going to go over here. And our destination is the kitchen. So when I'm chasing after the S ending, I don't bother this refrigerator at all, and definitely don't bother this shelf. So we're going to get our pesticide and click on this meat locker here. By the way, the running animations for Jennifer are actually, I think that also sometimes she didn't tend to run into the background as much in the old one as you can make her do in this version, I think. So now we have the gold key, but we're not really doing anything with it yet. So we're going to go back to what I always called the second foyer. I guess as some people pronounce it, foyer, but I'll just say foyer. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to use that key, one of the keys we got, to go through here. The key to the west building, they say, so the west wing. Actually, we don't need to use it yet for this. We would need to use it upstairs. So this is what I've always called the Scream Hallway 1, and that's why. So don't look out the windows. Not if you're trying to go for an S ending, or if you were trying to go for an A ending. You would not want to look out the window. In the old game, I don't think she actually said there was a scream outside, at least not in any of the translations I wanted, so I liked to just imagine that the reason she would ignore it was because she assumed the scream was coming from the other end of the hall instead. But in this one, no. She actually hears it's outside, but for some reason, I guess, you're supposed to just have a bad feeling about looking. If you want one of those top two endings. So normally, in the original version, there would be no reason that you would need to go into this room or the room upstairs that's right above this room. There would have been nothing that you would need to beat the game. But this time, we're going to do that. Because actually in this version, which is, I think was first true in the first Fear version, there can be something you need. And this is the very room that you'll need it in. So we go on over. I always found this room so creepy, like just the way that you hear the sounds. And I'm not sure that in the original Famicom version you always saw these things moving. Like you would hear noises, but I'm not sure, for example, that this guy here who makes the sound there, I'm not sure you saw him move, but it was always just such a creepy room to me. The taxidermy room, the trophy room. So we don't need to do this, what we're doing right now. That's just for atmosphere. So we're gonna go over here, but you can see something gleaming green in the box. Now here's something that I want to just make you aware of, because this actually tripped me up in one of my previous attempts to make this walkthrough. I had actually played the game already, this version, Rewind, before that, and so it really puzzled me. Never having played the first Fear version, I didn't know if this was just... I couldn't find anything here. It's just filled with junk. And so I didn't understand what happened, and I actually thought maybe it was randomly placed in another room, so I went about looking. But what actually turns out is you can't see it if the light's on. So only in the light can you tell that something's gleaming, and that's what makes her actually notice the item. Because the dagger is glowing faintly. And so you get the bronze dagger, and now you're going to use it in very short time here. Now this was just a scare, like all you did was find the body there, and the body didn't come to life like this in the original version of the game. This is totally from the first Fear and onward. So we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna get the bronze dagger. Go ahead and click, and as long as you've clicked, then she'll use it if you've clicked on the enemy there. So now we've got the cage key, and that key in the original version of the game, it was much easier to find because you just found it in the room where it was necessary. But they wanted to be able to make a use for the bronze dagger, because you could find that in the game's code before originally, but it just was never actually used. So they found a use for it. They put it there. Whether that was what they originally intended or just a nice Easter egg, I don't know. Now that room actually could have been there or here. You've had your first taste with something that's just true in the West Wing, which is that the rooms change. The rooms can swap depending on your playthrough. They'll stay stable in a given playthrough, but you never know where they can be, and several rooms are interchangeable. Those two rooms are always only interchangeable with each other, so each one of them will be in one of those two spots that we've explored. Okay, so now we're upstairs. This just leads to the upstairs scream hall, which would have been opened with the same key, the key to the west building, which would have been locked otherwise. Let's rest up. So we're just going to look into this room to see what it is, because this is another room that can be swapped. So many rooms in the West Wing, like I've said, can be swapped out with each other. There are some that'll always be in the same place. So this right now is the bathroom, but it could also be a couple of other rooms instead. But one room that is stable is this room. This room will always be the same room, and it is a child's room where I feel like somebody's watching me. All right, so let's see. Let's check this out for the key. And we have the ritual key, which we will need later for a very important room. Now here, what you want to do, the doll will eventually start to attack you, and you'll know when your picture starts flashing red. That's when you want to start pushing the panic button. Now, an interesting thing is, in the original version of the game, this was the only way this could happen. That French doll was gonna get you. Okay, I'm tapping the panic button, and there she is. But in this version of the game, which comes from the First Fear edition, the clown doll here can also be the one that would attack you. And I've had that happen once since I've played this game, this version now. But I don't know what causes it or if it's just random. But it's only happened to me once, so it might be that there was something I was doing differently that time. You know, it is random. I just now figured out that it's totally random because I just did the rewind thing. But if she walks farther, you know that it's going to be the clown that comes to life and does this. So I just wanted to kind of show that part. Okay, yeah, we know it's locked. Okay, so, but you beat it the same way. It's the same exact way as the French doll. It's just kind of cool how it can be different. But yeah, that's totally random because I got the clown doll once when I went in here. I rewound it to show you guys the clown doll doing it. But then the French doll did it, so I rewound it again, and then it ended up being the clown doll. So I'd done nothing different at that time. So I just randomly wanted to include that in there. All right, so this room also is a room that will always be the same, and it was a study, so that's always the same too. Okay, let's see. All right, so from what I've heard, because here, if you check this, it's just lumber. That's all she says about the plank. But if you check this and she can see the first floor, then check this and she'll use it. Now, I've heard that if you do anything else that breaks the sequence, if you click anywhere else after having looked at the hole, then she'll continue to say that that's just lumber. So suspicious section of the wall. Now here, where we're going to do, we want to act fast in this room. I've always wanted to act fast every time I go in this room. And there's a reason for that, because you can get attacked if you take too long. So first we click up here, where she notices that only a section of the wall is a different color than the rest. And it's behind this, so click on this so that she can move it. And be ready to immediately click on this, because again, every second in this room is a chance for you to be ambushed. So already have your cursor over this pipe here to click on it as soon as you have the ability to do so. Uh-oh. Now this is not the kind of ambush that could have happened normally, and it's not the ambush I was talking about actually. This is an example of something that's changed, I think not in the First Fear edition even. I think it's changed by that ROM hack. And it's the fact that Scissor Man actually can attack you at random now. So that's the final touch, and it's something that I always thought this game could use, because before that, in the original versions, all the attacks of Scissor Man were either scripted in the story or specifically from you checking things. So you were fine if you were just standing still, nothing would happen. So I think that's a really neat thing. It's so great that they actually added that, because now that's something that was always true in the version that I first started. Well, not the version, the game I first was introduced to the series with, the sequel. So we're going to actually go to Scissor Man and face off with him here, because I know how I can beat him. Okay. Because if you come from running from him this way, you get this little cinematic thing that happens. I always think she's cutting it close to comfort, though. He's almost right on the plank by the time she lifts it, but I guess, you know, in times of panic. All right, so, but again, that was not actually the ambush that I was even worried about there when I was taking so much time. So let's go and click on this pipe, and then we find out something about Jennifer that at least I've always thought. You know, 2 taps, even if they were hard hits, either the wall was insanely weak or this 14-year-old is amazingly strong, and Scissorman really should be running from her the whole time. If she was to actually pick up a weapon and start trying to fight, then evidently she'd take his head off or something because, Okay, so now we're in the room here, this sealed room, which again, that wall, as weak as it was, if it, somebody could have broken out from the inside. Okay, so let's check here, because this room is actually really important to the lore. So here we have the medical chart with the patients being twin newborn babies. And we've only seen one creepy child around here, so twins. The name of the patient being Mary Barrows. So Jennifer's connecting the dots here. Mary Barrows. Like there's Miss Mary. Walter Simpson. Dad. Yeah. Now let's check the corpse in the corner. And this, it's essential that this is the scene you see if you want to get the S ending. There's another character and another way that you can find out similar information to this. But if that's the one, it's mutually exclusive with this, and you'll only get the A ending. You won't get the S ending, at least as far as I know. That's the way I've ever known the difference. So November the 10th, 1986. Dr. Walter Simpson's notes. It has been 3 days since I was locked away. I don't think I will last much longer. Before my life ends, I have to record everything I know about the twins who will bring calamity to the world. I was called in to deliver Miss Barrows' baby, and that's when she gave birth to them, the demonic children. My right hand was bitten off as they exited their mother's womb. Their bodies haven't fully developed, so they probably won't be able to live more than a few days, but if, as you read this, they happen to still be alive, please bring an end to their existence somehow. I am certain that something horrible will happen if they remain alive. It's hard to breathe in here. The room seems to be losing its oxygen as I write this. The cradle under the star. That's where they sleep deeply. Jennifer. 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 It's such a nice scene with a sense of weight and drama, and the way that she affectionately cradles the skeleton. Now, actually, as many of you know, this video game, was inspired by several different things of Dario Argento. Not only this one, but most famously, Phenomena. And I actually have always thought that some of the facial expressions, because it's no secret that Jennifer Simpson is based off of Jennifer Corvino, played by Jennifer Connelly in the movie Phenomena. And in particular, I feel like the face in that screen, that still image of her cradling her father's skeleton, I feel like that was taken pretty directly from a scene in that movie where Jennifer Corvino is taking a bite of baby food. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the cage room. That's our next destination. And I don't know where that is yet because it's one of the rooms that's interchangeable with other rooms. So it could be in several places. Not here. This is the library. So actually, we'll stop back in here in a minute, though, because there is something that we want to know. And this is the music room. We don't need anything from here yet until we've confirmed something else. And I'm actually going to decide that right now. I'm going to go to the library. I'm hoping that it won't upset the balance of the ending or whatever that I'm trying to get. Because I'm just going to check this shelf here. We must keep the demonic statue in a safe place. A tree within the forest, a person within a crowd, and a statue among statues. Okay, well that tells us what we need to know. Because I'm pretty sure if you see that memo, then the items you're going to need at a certain point in time is going to be different. But we don't need it yet, so we're still going to keep looking for the cage room. Now, the cage room actually ties into another thing, another Argento film, and I won't spoil it because just in case you don't know about it, and you should check out his films for yourself. Okay, so this is it this time. This is where the cage room is. So turn on the light there, and but one important thing is that in the original version of the game, you would have actually found the key here. Instead, you're treated to this gruesome sight here. But I think that the cage key would have been on the table here in the original version of the game. But we got it from the mummy over in the trophy room. So, let's see. First, let's just check out what's here. A live crow in the cage. Well, we can tell that the poor thing was destined to no good end, since what we've seen, the bodies of several crows strung up. And then the one on the table, decapitated. Probably something with the rats, too, that they were going to do, because clearly there's a psycho family that's willing to sacrifice whatever, human, animal, nothing's safe around this place, so let's let them out. Both to save them, because, you know, we care about animals, we don't want cruelty to animals happening, but also, you know, spite the psychopath family that's trying to murder us. And see, this is what's inspired by another Argento film, because there is another Argento film, and I won't say it, what the name is, just to avoid the spoilers, but crows play a big role in it, and it's just like this crow is going to help you later, because one thing that's actually true to life about crows is that crows they'll remember people. They'll remember if you were kind to them, if you did something great to them, if you were nice to them, if you did good things for them, but they'll also remember if you did bad things to them, if you hurt them in some ways, and they'll hold a grudge. So crows will actually decide whether they like you or not based on how you treat them, and they can remember this for years. So what we're doing now is we're going to leave this and we're going to go to the second foyer. Which is the second foyer we ever saw in the game. So, which I probably said earlier. It's hard to tell because I've had to try this several times. Something kept going wrong. So this actually isn't the first time I've been recording this, and I still have other endings to walk through as well. But it's worth it because it's just such an honor to be able to do this game again. So this actually is another set of rooms that's interchangeable. I think I might have said earlier mistakenly that it was only in the west wing where you would see things like this. But this room could be interchangeable with the room that's in the same position upstairs. And we'll see which one it is. Yep, use the gold key. So this time, this is the telephone room, as I call it. So we're going to keep going in and out because we want to trigger a certain event, a certain scene. And I think it's just for the perfection of it, and it might play a role in getting the ending or not, but story-wise, it's a neat event to trigger. So if in the beginning you had done anything other than go into the bathroom in order to get the game rolling, then do not check that suit of armor. You're safe now, Jennifer. What's wrong? You can come to me. I love how she's like, you can come to me, as if she's trying to fool Jennifer, but then she comes walking at her with a knife. It's like, if there was any doubt in the girl's mind that the Mary Barrows was Miss Mary, now that doubt has vanished. Okay, what has happened? Oh, wow. Well, magical teleportation powers from Scissorman. Which he canonically has, so. But that was random. That does not always happen at that point. I've played this game several times, even this version of it, and he doesn't just come out of that room where his mother has chased you, so that was just kind of as if she summoned him, though, this time. That couldn't have worked out more perfectly, you know. Alright, so we're gonna actually hide under this bed that I've cleared up, so I'm actually, again, it was a good decision to get rid of that parrot, because if you tried to hide under this bed without having done the thing with the parrot tells on you, it rats you out, gets you into big trouble. Luckily, not any kind of trouble that I've ever been in before, because I've never had anybody trying to chase me down with scissors and stab me, but you'll see that in the Barrows family, apparently they do treat this sometimes like they're just punishing a naughty child or something. You know, oh, you've been a handful, let me stab you, or something like that, so. Alright, so now that we've had that scene play out, we're gonna go back into that room, into the phone room. Ah! Again! No! But I love it, though. I love how, you know, it's more active, and you just, things like this didn't happen in the original version of the game, so I've been having a blast with that. Alright, so I'm gonna go to a different place to hide this time. So, this is the same hall where we went to the kitchen, but instead this time we're going all the way to the left. Hide in the car. Now, the weird thing is, she looks like she's just sitting up there, but I guess Scissorman doesn't always have the best peripheral vision, especially not if a perfectly clear pane of glass is there. Or maybe he's just toying with her in some way, which would make sense. Notice that the date on your father's note was in 1986. Well, this game takes place in 1995, so the Scissorman is only 9 years old. Which means he's younger than Jennifer here, you know? 5 years younger than her, but old enough to be deadly to her. I guess that's what, you know, that's what happens whenever you've got, I guess, supernatural powers on your side. But again, with Jennifer's power to just, you know, hit a wall twice and then it crumbles in her wake, maybe she's got some powers of her own. So now we can go to the telephone room. It took us long enough to get here, but so let's check this table here. All right, so now we've picked up the silver key. Now this actually opens a room that I don't think we're going to need. But we're going to look at it just so we can have it there. Because it's good for atmosphere, it's good for the plot. It's just, I think it adds more to the story if you go into this room. So we're going to look in this room anyway, even though I think we're set to need the statue. There are one of two items that you could need to progress in the game. One is a demonic statue, which we've just read about in the library. Now, I think the presence of that piece of paper being there means that that's what we're going to need. But the other could have been a scepter, and you would find out how to use the scepter in this room. Now, if you already had the scepter, or maybe if the scepter is even what you're going to need, Jennifer would push this shelf over so that you could see a scepter behind there. So keep that in mind, because if you were on a playthrough that does need the scepter, and I think that's kind of randomized, this room would be important. It would be vital. You would actually have to do it in order to press on. And but in this playthrough, you actually can't push it over yet, and that might be because we don't have the... So we come over here, though, to see this, too. To bring time to a standstill. Stop the big clock at the clock tower. Now, in the translation I originally played, that said time will cause adherence. So... But this one kind of makes it a little bit clearer that it immediately has to do with the clock tower. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go through the upstairs scream hallway, go back to the western wing, now I told you that we don't need the music room, I don't think, because I think what we're going to have is the statue, which is what I'm looking to confirm right now. If it's the statue, oh, I need to rest up. Always good to have the health up in case Scissor Man attacks again. You never know when you'll have to fight your way out of him, and if you're down in the red whenever that happens, then you're just dead. See, you can imagine in the original version of the game where it wasn't as easy to heal her, how annoying that would get, because just running takes her down. All right, so check here, a statue among statues, and this is one of the few you can click on. All right, so we have the statue. All right, so let's go. If you hear papers ruffling here, by the way, that's actually, I've printed out my old guide, and I'm kind of using that just to make sure I do the right moves and stuff here. All right, so if you had the scepter, if you couldn't find the statue there, if there was no note in the library, then what you would have done is you would have come to the music room and you would have looked behind this curtain. And behind that curtain would have been a vase with the scepter in it. So that's not what we're going to do here, because when the scepter is not in the vase, there is another surprise waiting for you. And we've already been attacked so many times, so we're going to go instead to the chapel now. We're actually ready to go to the chapel. The place where we saw the mural on the wall, that I call the religious study, by the way, because it's a study for a obviously not a very good religion, but you know, given that this family practices it and what apparently it calls upon them to do. But yeah, so you can guess that this is not going to be your ordinary chapel. This isn't going to be something benign. The cradle under the star. Now, if you had gotten the scepter and you had to, you had pushed over the thing in the shelf in the religious study, and you would have seen a picture of the scepter in the vase in the background. So that's what she's talking about here if you check this out, and she says that there's a hole that runs very deep. And you would have needed to put the scepter in there in order to get where you need to go next. A dead crow. So if you check here, you'll see that message again about stopping time. To bring time to a standstill. So you can kind of piece together here. It's not necessarily spelled out for you, but the doctor, Dr. Simpson, has mentioned that these twins shouldn't have lived. So what you can piece together here is that some kind of magical spell has been cast where if the clock tower is stopped, time stops, so that it allows those twins to keep living even though they shouldn't have been able to live long, even though they're so unnatural. So that's actually what you get the namesake of the game from, the importance of the clock tower, because the clock tower represents the stopping and starting of time. And time is not on the side of these twins. So that's why they have to stop it. And why we, if we want to stop them, have to start time again within these walls. So now we're going down. From here, things are mostly straightforward. Now, actually, the first time, not the first time, but one of the times I played here recently, I actually, well, that was a mistake. I didn't mean to go that far. So you actually got to see me reach a dead end here. I didn't even mean to do that. So we're going to now make use of the very handy continue button, continue option here. So that'll take you right back where you left off, thankfully. I haven't been saving my game at any point in time in all this. Of course, now I have to sit through the climbing down the ladder animation again. Alright, so this time, hopefully I won't go right there, so... Okay, so now this time, we're going to use the black robe. And then, the perfume. Because now that we know that Mary is probably the one in that robe there, who else would it be? Now, you will lock yourself into two of the worst endings if you go immediately into this cave. So don't go past the cave. At least if you haven't seen Lot die already. And she gives you one more mention of the clock tower and the switches. Sadly, there's no way to save Lot. The S ending is all about saving at least one of your friends. You can only save one, but it can be one of two characters, but that can't be Lot, actually. Now, I'm not actually even sure ever if I'm saying that right, because as a nickname. See, funny story actually, back when I was in high school and I was making the guide for this, the very first version of the guide that I made, it also gave some character descriptions and everything. And I described Lot as a boy. And it was actually embarrassing. But anyway, first actually, we want to go into here. This is something that in the original version of the game you wouldn't have to worry about, by the way. But in this version, this elevator later won't work unless you've hit switches for it. That just wasn't true in the original version. But the only way that she'll do anything to those switches at the time that were outside of this hall was if she's already checked the elevator. So I like to go ahead and do that to save a little bit of time. But anyway, yeah, I thought Lot was a boy. And it was actually because somebody that I'd read somewhere in some other thing I'd read about the game that character was a boy, and I thought that the name was just a strange spelling of the name Lot, L-O-T, like and so we can check these, by the way. So it was the first impression. My first impression was that the character was a boy, and despite some pretty obvious evidence at times that that wasn't the case, it just stuck with me until years later. In fact, that's what Enigma Pia was quoting me about on her blog. She was quoting that I was one of the people who had argued that the character was a male, as she was arguing, rightly so, that the character was a girl. But that's how I got introduced to Don't Cry Jennifer forums. So I'm actually really glad that I made that mistake, because those were some good times in that forum. I miss you guys if you're out there and you're watching this video at any point in time. All right, so now we're going to go on over here. And finally we see this cradle under the star. You can actually run in this version to there, but it'll kind of ruin the atmosphere a little bit, so just click once and walk. Dan. Actually, I'm not sure that we even figure out their names until after this. And I think you can only figure out their names in a certain ending. I'm not sure that the names are given. Even in this ending. Okay, so we see the flashing, so we're gonna tap that panic button. And even though it's not flashing right now, I still tap it just in case, because I don't know. Maybe if you did it successfully the first time, then she just does this automatically. And this was that scene that opens up the sequel. And I actually thought it was just camera magic when I first saw that. I did not realize that it was actually supposed to be a giant chasing her. Okay, but we know there's no power to the elevator, so before we even go there, we're going to go ahead and switch these. Alright, so now we're ready to go. But yeah, that was just there in the original version, and I didn't even... There was no indication of why it was there or what it was for. So it was very mysterious. So again, they've made that. Alright, now this scene I have mixed feelings about, actually. See a small figure stand up. Now, you'd know why if you've beaten the sequel, but this was specifically added to the first Fear to tie into the sequel. But I kind of like it when things can stand on their own. when an original can stand on its own. So I have mixed feelings about that, actually, about the addition of that, because it's like it kind of requires you then to play the sequel to follow up on that and get some closure. If somebody had never heard of the sequel, which would be weird anywhere outside of Japan because you probably heard of the sequel first a lot of times, but yeah, I don't know how that would play out. So this actually makes a difference. Like if you went to floor 2, you would actually be locked into the C ending, which is interesting because in both the A and S ending route, one of your friends is still out there, and that's just never resolved if you take floor 2. You go locked into the C ending, and it's never mentioned. It's a plot hole. So yeah, make sure you only go to floor 3 if you want endings A, S, or B. It's an important thing. Back when I was very first... Okay, so see, now I can tell that we made the S ending, because you'll know you've made the S ending if one of your friends is lying on the floor over there at this point. But yeah, back when I first made the guide, I didn't understand necessarily that the clock tower turning on was supposed to be restarting time. I didn't know that bit of the lore. So I just thought that the noise was driving him crazy, and then he was just jumping off and dying by committing... Okay, tap, 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 tap. Okay, so, and now the crows come back and they save us, because crows remember. They remember the kindness we did. They remember the cruelty Miss Mary did. And so now she's gonna meet her end there. Now, I always thought that there's something interesting about this, because Jennifer's actually running over to Mary, and the way she actually looks like she's concerned, so it's kind of interesting, and it kind of probably shows something about the kind of heart Jennifer is supposed to have. She's strong, she's tough, but at the same time, she has some sense of pity, you know? So she kind of pities Mary, even though Mary has tried to kill her and caused all this misery. And so now we've made it to the S ending of the game, and that's the bulk of this walkthrough, just like it was the bulk of my my original text-based walkthrough, because the other endings I can get you a sense of how to get them now that you already have the groundwork of this one. But while the credits roll here, because we'll look at the credits, we'll let the credits play. I think it's a very good climactic thing to do. We'll just soak in how wonderful it is that after all this time, this is here. This is finally official. Now I think it'll be I hope it'll reach a much broader audience, and I really hope that it's going to cause a lot more interest in the Clock Tower franchise. I hope that maybe we'll see sequels. I would love to see a remake of the sequel now, because this has aged better than the sequel. The graphics here, it's a beautiful pixel art, some of the best, the most beautiful art that you would see in the Super Famicom style of graphics, the Super Nintendo kind of graphics. I think that it aged beautifully. It's retro, it's great. I think that the sequel's graphics did not age as well, as so many of the early 3D era didn't. So I think it could use a remake. I would love to see that, and especially now, because this being the version of the game that follows on the first Fear, with that little cutscene that it showed with something rising out of the ashes, now it's even more, there's more of a need to play the sequel in order to get that closure. So I hope that they do that and that they bring that back. I wouldn't mind seeing a remake of this, mind you. It would be interesting to see a remake of a full-scale remake of this with next generation graphics or whatever. But again, this aged well, so I don't think it needs it as much as the other. But on top of that, maybe we could actually see some sequels. I know that in this game, there are the interviews with the original creator, and I think he himself has expressed an interest in maybe making sequels and things. So that would be pretty great, and it's so great to see this getting recognition. This was a dream come true, really. Like, I didn't think this would happen. How many of you can say something in the comments about whether you ever expected this to happen before this year? When I first heard of it, I think it was in late 2023, whenever they first started talking about this? It was right about the same time that I had found out about the Mario RPG remake happening, and it was just, a 1-2 punch there of news that I just wasn't expecting that hit me right out of the blue. So, yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this walkthrough so far, and now we're getting ready to do the other endings, so it's not over yet. But this is the S ending, the best ending, and sadly, according to the same sequel I was just talking about, not canon. So, alright, so we have an ending rank of S. After you've achieved that, you can go to your ending list and confirm there that you have it. And I think it's a good idea to save here. That's actually something else that I did wrong recently. Whenever I was trying to make a guide, I had to take a break in the middle of making this, but I didn't save, so then I just had to replay the whole thing over, because since some of the rooms are randomized, I couldn't just finish from where I'd left off. And another important thing, and this is really important, make sure that you're not backing up to a previous save file in order to get your endings. There's only 1 or 2 times you can do that and still manage to keep adding endings to the list, because normally what's going to happen is if you back up to a previous save file to try to get more than 1 endings on one playthrough, it's going to overwrite the fact that you had already achieved the ending, so it won't add it to the list. So unfortunately, you can't do that. Most of the time you are going to have to play a completely new playthrough if you want to build up all the endings. It's okay to keep saving your game, just don't back up to previous save files to try to get more than 1 ending in one playthrough, with very few exceptions. So now we'll get around to those other endings. You can do a quick start here when you're starting for the other endings. I think that's what I'm going to do when doing all the other endings, just for this guide. And I'm going to cut to the parts that are actually giving you the instructions for each ending. So anyway, the first thing that you want to do when you're doing the A ending is that you want to do exactly what you would do for the S ending, pretty much, except a couple of things. One thing that you can do different, though, because it's a good thing to figure out, is a different variation on the opening. It's just good to see them all, so you might as well do that while you're going for the different endings. So in the beginning, after you've checked the living room box and after you've gotten the perfume and wrapped the parrot in the blanket, because that'll be really important for this one especially, you get here where the dripping is, but instead of going in the bathroom, just go past it. We get the famous scene inspired by the very famous scene in Suspiria, where the poor victim is killed right through the glass window in the roof, the skylight, I guess, although it's stained glass, so I don't know about that. But anyway, this is why it's really important that you have the parrot wrapped up in this one, because in this one he'll be chasing you this way. So, yeah, so there's a different opening. At some point in time while doing the other endings, we'll also do the third way to start the game out, because that's also worth seeing. And, like I've said before, if you do it this way, remember that it's Anne who has died first, so you don't have to worry about the scream hallway, because that's never how Laura's gonna die. But, if you're trying to go for the A ending or the S ending, if you saw Anne die in the beginning, then in the phone room, you never want to check that suit of armor because that's going to be where you would find Laura's dead body. And then you'll be locked out of the A and the S endings. So, but anyway, the first thing you want to do differently on your path to get the A ending instead of the S ending is we go into the kitchen, and the first thing that you want to do, you just want to go ahead and do as normal. You want to kill the bugs with the insecticide, the pesticide, and that's all going to play out the same. There's not going to be any real difference there. But after you do that, you want to do one more thing that we specifically avoided in the A ending, and I don't know that, I mean in the S ending, and I don't know that we had to actually avoid it in the S ending, just this thing, but it wasn't going to be useful to us in the S ending. So that thing is, we're going to click on this refrigerator. We're still not clicking on this in any way, but we're going to click on the refrigerator, and we're going to get the ham. And the ham is, we're going to need that for later, for the event that we're going to do. That's going to be an extra, an event that was mutually exclusive with the thing that we did in the S ending. So after we do that, what you want to remember to never do in your playthrough is to never go into the secret room where in the S ending we found Jennifer's father's skeleton. We don't even want to go near that, really. There's no reason even to go into that storage room where you have to break the wall when you're going for an A ending, so you can steer completely clear of that. Remember, in this hall as well, the Scream Hall, if you actually went with seeing Laura dead in the shower again instead of seeing Anne die, just remember on an A run through, it would be important to never listen to any screams in this hallway. But we don't have to worry about that as long as Anne's the one who died in the beginning. It's the suit of armor in the phone room we have to worry about then. So at the next different step that you do, after you've done everything up until the phone room part, the part where we go into the phone room on the S guide, once you're up to the phone room, this is where the differences start kicking in. So we're going in here, and just like last time, go in and out until something, you actually see Miss Mary there. Only this time, it plays out differently than it did last time because we don't know anything about Miss Mary yet. We haven't seen the note in the sealed room about her, so we don't know she's a member of the Barrows family. We get this kind of thing where, as far as Jennifer knows, Miss Mary's still on her side. Miss Mary's still safe, somebody that she can trust. Now, this could also have been triggered by clicking on the shelf next to the refrigerator. This kind of fainting and ending up in the next part, but I do it this way because it's tried and true for getting the A ending. So now we're in a totally different place, so now this is he wants something to eat, and if you try to just, let's see, I'm gonna save. If you try to talk to him without giving him something to eat, it's food. And you get those chewing sounds, really, really wet, and there you go. So that's why we needed the ham for this one, because it's going to be really important to have that. So let's get the ham. No, I didn't. No. So let's get the ham. No. Did I wait too long? I did, didn't I? Okay, so we gave him ham. I actually didn't wait too long, barely. I thought I'd gotten myself stuck there. So now we'll get this dialogue here. So you also don't want to wait too long to give him the ham because you could end up stuck. Barrows. So you're the one who It's watching you right now.
What?
It's watching you from the cradle under the star. So this is Simon Barrows. This is the one who was, Miss Mary said, was trying to adopt the girls. So the backstory of this, actually, which doesn't get fully explained here, but it's the backstory that you can find from the creator and everything of the game, that this actually, he opposed his wife's plans. Whenever the demon children were born, he wanted to not go along with this, so his wife has caged him. I think that that's canon there, so he actually wasn't along for it, but he's gone crazy because of this. So he's crazy with hunger. That's why he would eat you, because he's so hungry, and he's gone mad. So anyway, so now we have a different variation on what happens to Lot here. So all right, so what you want to do here, after she scolds you as if you're just a troublemaker, and she just wants to hand you out a punishment, like, you know, it's like, after she says this, you want to click on this board here, this 2x4, because if you tried to hide in the box there, she'd find you, because there's not really anywhere else you can be, and it wouldn't work out. So yeah, we've done this now, and let's go this way. And we can move this box and get out through there. This, by the way, we haven't gone here yet in this playthrough, but you will if you ever try to see the third way to open up the game. But anyway, for now, since we've done that, we still do want to check the religious study and examine everything in it. So after getting the key to the religious study, we'll go into the religious study, and once there, examine everything, especially the note that has the note about the clock tower, because you're not gonna see Lot dying at the end of the cave since she died in the shed. So this is the only way you're gonna find out about what you need to do later, and that's really important to know in order to get this ending. So especially examine that, but examine everything in the room, and if you get the cane, make sure to knock over the bookshelf and look at what's behind it. After this, just do everything else that you would do in the S ending, all the way up to getting in the elevator in the caves and riding it up. And then you'll actually know if you've succeeded or not, because if you've not seen your last friend die yet, you definitely are getting the S or the A ending. And the way you know if it's going to be the A ending or the S ending, and in this case we do have the A ending, so we know that now we've successfully gotten it. And the way I know that is because your friend won't be lying there, so you won't see your friend already. In the S ending, your friend is lying there, she's as if she's been knocked out or something, but in this one she's not there yet. So, and yet we know that she's alive. We know that we've not yet seen her die. So, and the reason why she wasn't lying there is because we have this moment. Nice moment of reunion. So, why? There you go. So, yeah, she, now we gotta go over here. And it plays out a little bit differently because this time she's trying to stab us. So, be prepared for the panic button, because you're gonna need that at this point in time. But the crows still come to the rescue. So this ending is a lot, it's unlike the S ending, this one could be canon, because all the canon endings with the sequel would be the ones where only Jennifer survives. Obviously she does survive, but she's the only one that survives. And this one, of all of those, is probably the most cinematic, because you have that last big scare where you actually think everything's safe. You think that you have a friend that's actually survived, only at the last moment to have the big jump scare be the death of your friend. So it kind of actually reminds me of the last few minutes of one of the Dario Argento films that this was based on. So yeah, So there we have it, Jennifer standing by herself. One detail that you can know that makes this ending more likely to be canon than the S ending. On the S ending, your friend is standing beside you, but they didn't actually animate her clothing or her hair to be blowing in the wind like Jennifer's. So it's kind of like it was kind of an afterthought as a nice bonus to give you that really happy ending, but not really meant to be the canon one. So that's it for the A ending. So now let's move on. But let's go ahead and save the game. Because, you know, any time that you're in between them, you want to keep saving so that you keep building up that list. So before we actually start doing what we're going to have to do to get the B ending, we're going to see that third way that you can start the game. So of the 3 ways you can start the game, Laura can only be the first victim in the shower. So, but Anne has 2 ways of being the victim. So first, let's crawl up this pile of rubble. And we're going to get the sharp-edged stone. And we're going to use that to break this hole in the wall, make it bigger, big enough for us to go through. And so we find ourselves in the courtyard, and we've actually seen this before because we saw this whenever we exited the shed when we were locked up with Simon Barrows. But this is the other half of it. And we can see that Anne is drowning here. So, yeah, it's interesting that Anne has more ways to die than Laura does. Laura only has 2 ways, one in her initial death, if she's at the beginning, and then another that she can die later on. But Anne has 2 ways in the opening to die. So now I'm actually not sure if this pool scene is inspired by anything from Argento or anything. Now, something interesting that I've noticed that's only true for this version I've played, it might have been true in the First Fear edition, but I've never played that, is that you can already go in here. The cursor didn't do anything in the original version if you went here. You'd only could go here after you'd gotten locked in the shed. But you're able to go in the shed this time. So, let's see. We're going to hide here. I know that this doesn't actually work if you are faced with Miss Mary. But it might work on Bobby. So, and again, still, this is actually, we still haven't seen the ending that has Mary actually naming the kids, so. Okay, so this actually works. So now what I'm curious about, because this is the first time I've actually done this live, because so you're seeing it, I mean not live, but I've done it as I've been recording this. So I'm going to go over here and see. All right, so Simon is actually in here. So that's going to mean that we're locked into him being the way to go, that it's not going to be with Jennifer's father in there. So he wants something to eat still. So I actually think we can probably do this and have this scene without necessarily getting trapped in there with him, which is something that's unique to this version, or maybe again to the First Fear. So we're going to go ahead and go through here. And then from here on, we're going to do everything else the same. So now that Anne is the one, though, who died, essentially, we're going to have to wait till we have access to the phone room, and then we're going to check the suit of armor with Laura. So that's going to be pretty much the main thing that's going to go differently in this one, is that if Anne was the one to die at the beginning, you've got to check the suit of armor in the phone room, or you've got to look out the window in the scream hallway. So we'll just have a look at both of those things and how they go, because other than that, that should be the only thing that'll happen any differently from the S ending or the A ending, is that you've let both of your friends die besides Lot, because she always dies. And don't forget, like I almost did, to stop by the bedroom, the master bedroom, to get the perfume, because that's an easier thing to forget whenever you're doing it the way that I just did it. If you see Anne drown in the courtyard, it's a little bit easier to forget to even check the bedroom and you don't want to forget that. And while you're at it, you can also remember to check the living room, the box for the key, in case the living room has it. And none of the playthrough that I've been doing on videos so far has this box had it, and we've always gotten it from that nest in the other hallway. But don't forget to check this just in case that could be where the key is. So here we are in the phone room now, and so that's the first of the two ways that you can make it different. Well, it's actually the only way that it needs to be different from the A ending if Anne's the one you saw die first, and that is just check this suit of armor. And then we can see that Laura's dead body has been stuffed into the suit of armor. So now both of those friends have died. And that's really it. So the only other option that you need to worry about is if Laura's the one who died first. Instead, you need to do the Scream hallway. And do always remember to have this scene play out with Miss Mary if in any of your plays through where you're not trying to go for one of the worst endings. If you're trying to go for one of the top 4 endings, then remember that you need this scene for Miss Mary if you're not going the route where you're going to find Jennifer's dad in the sealed room. This is an important scene so that you know that Mary is evil. So either you need this to happen, or you need to... I think it can work just as well if you take a drink from the shelf next to the refrigerator in the kitchen, because that still ends up revealing Mary as evil. But in any case, of those two cases, you want to make sure you have the ham first, because that's important. Also, remember, anytime you go the route where you see Simon Barrows in the cage, you want to thoroughly check the library, the religious library, especially that notebook on the left, because that's how Jennifer finds out that the clock tower switches are important, since Law is already dead, so you won't find her in the cave to tell you. The one exception to that, which I haven't fully checked out, may be that there is a way to get trapped in the cage with Simon Barrows and not have Lot die this early, which is you look out the Scream hallway, so this has to be a time when Laura died first. You witness Anne's death from the window. And then, at that point in time, if you've witnessed her death out the window by falling through the window, if you go up to the regular study, which is the room that's beside the child's room, you can either get to it from the hallway or directly from the child's room, then you'll find something there that won't be there unless Anne has fallen out the window. And it's this lantern on the desk. So when you get the lantern, use it on the hole in the wall in the back of the library, and there you're going to find a key. So it's the copper key. This is something that's only in maybe the first Fear edition, maybe only this latest version, I don't know. But it was dummied out of the original. But you can use that key on the cage door in the shed, which would prevent Lot from having to rescue you and die at that point. So with everything else, you just proceed as you would have in the S ending or the A ending, up until you get in the elevator. And then, again, the important thing if you want to get the B ending is to be sure you do the 3rd floor on the elevator. So that's going to be the main thing that you need to do after everything else you've already done. So take the 3rd floor to the elevator. And one thing that we're going to notice here is you're going to notice that whenever Miss Mary attacks me, it's going to play out a little bit differently, and that's actually not going to be because this is the B ending in particular. It's because of another difference that I've done. I don't like to risk this because I don't know for sure if it'll change the ending from the A or the S ending, but on the B ending, you have freedom, and I'm going to talk more about that freedom later, but one instance is you don't have to free the crows. So, in order to get the B ending, that's for sure. It may be that doesn't really affect whether you get the A ending or the S ending either, but I don't like to take those risks if I'm trying to do the one of the other endings a lot of times. So yeah, I haven't saved the crow, so they're not going to save me from Mary in this run through, but it actually doesn't necessarily affect what ending I'm getting. It just affects this. So yeah, you gotta press your panic button here, And instead, Mary just gets electrocuted on the control panel. So, yeah, so now that's the B ending. And the thing about the B ending is very similar to the C ending. As long as you do everything that you let both of your friends die, and you find all the information you need to, including about the switches in the clock tower. That's why you need to make sure that you go to the religious study if Lot dies earlier than the caves. As long as you've done those things, you've let both of your friends die, you've found out all the facts about Mary, you've found out about the cradle under the star, you've found out about the switches, you have freedom in the B ending because it doesn't really matter a lot of other things you do. So, as long as you take the right button on the elevator, which is the 3rd floor, you're gonna get the B ending if you've done these conditions. So you could see either Simon Barrows or you could see Jennifer's dad's body in the sealed room, and it's not gonna affect the ending. The ending's gonna end up the same. You can have the crows save you, you can save the crow and have them save you, or you can do what I just did here, what I just showed you. It doesn't matter which of your friends die. Of course, that never matters, which of your friends die at the beginning. But yeah, there's a lot of freedom in the B ending, and you're going to find out that that's the same exact thing in the C ending. Because, funny enough, the only difference in the C ending you're about to see is that after doing everything you had done to get the B ending, instead of choosing floor 3, you choose floor 2. And that's really the only difference. That's the only thing that you have to do different up to this point. Now, there's a little more here, and it's actually in a really interesting sequence. And I really like this sequence, actually. It's kind of surprising that it's so low on the rung of the endings compared to the others. So you just take that, and then you come into this hallway, and there's Miss Mary. Be prepared to hit the panic button. But yeah, so this whole sequence is really neat, and this is actually, I think, the only ending where you hear the names of the sons. Because see, she's like, Bobby, that girl killed Dan. Go get her. So, an interesting thing that was added on this version, it might have been added on the first Fear as well, I don't know, is that, I think, actually, let's click on this ladder, you have to, is that actually Bobby can sometimes come out following, yeah, there he is, I can hear him. So he's actually coming out following his mother. That wasn't true in the original version, so I think it's really kind of neat. But, we're gonna have to hit the panic button one more time. And exit Miss Mary. So, yeah, so it's this whole new sequence, and it's actually kind of dramatic with the rain falling and climbing up the clock tower. That's why, like I say, and it's the one ending where you hear the names, you see the names spelled out clearly, and I think it's kind of interesting that it's as low on the rung as C, but yeah. So that's the only difference, though, that you had to do as far as what you do up to the elevator. It's just the difference of what floor you pick. Just this one simple change there, this one simple thing of which floor you pick to go to, makes it register instead as the C ending. Now, the secret to getting the D ending and the E ending, and actually the F ending as well, is you're just going to go through the game just doing what it takes to get to the elevator in the caves, and not much more than that. You want to avoid all the story beats and all of the plot points that would flesh out the story. All you're doing is getting what you need. So the things that you're going to do are things like checking for the key to the West Hall, whether in the living room box or in the nest. You're going to get Miss Mary's perfume. You're going to see one of your friends die. Laura's the most convenient to see die. at the beginning. And after that, you're going to get the black robe. Make sure that you get that. Get the ritual key from the child's room. You're going to go to the library, check for the note. If it's there, you're going to use it to get the statue. And if it isn't there, you're going to have to go to the music room to get the scepter, or the cane as they call it. Now, if you have to get the cane, that does complicate things a bit, because now you have to go to the religious study and push over the shelf to examine the painting in order to know what to do with the cane. I wouldn't do anything else besides what I had to do to know what to do with the cane. And the reason this complicates things is that you need to get the key from the phone room, but Miss Mary could be in there. So if she is, rewind until she's not, because you don't want to meet her. You don't want to take the chance on getting that story fleshed out. It'll ruin the ending. And that's why it's much easier if you're lucky enough for the statue to be what you get on that playthrough. So after that, go to the chapel, do whatever you need to do to open the trap door, whether that was using the statue or the cane. Then you're going to use the perfume and the robe to go past the dog. Now, what's important for the D and E endings is you don't want to go in that cave yet. Just like you would for the higher endings, you want to make sure you see Lot's death, which would have to be down here in the caves, because you would ruin these endings if you saw the plot points necessary in order for her to have died earlier. And so after seeing her death, then you're going to go on and play everything as normal. Kill Dan, make your way after that to the elevator. And actually, we're going to get these out of order. Instead of getting the D ending first, we're going to get the E ending first. And there's a reason for that, and you're going to know it very soon. So far, we have been doing all the endings in order, of course, but this one, it'll just make things a lot easier on you. So go to floor number 3, and that's going to get us the E ending, which you're going to see what it is. So far, so good. So far, everything's going just the way it would in a normal ending. And that's not a good position to be in, trapped with the scissor man. So anyway, that is the E ending. And the reason that we went for that first, let's speed up through this. It's the one time that you can do this in this version of the game. You see, like the regular version of the game, if you're trying to fill up your ending ranks, and you want to actually fill them up. The thing is, like I've said earlier, you can't do that and load from an earlier save file. If you do, it'll erase the fact that you've accomplished an ending. So far on all these plays through, we've had to play completely from the beginning if we wanted to get an ending. We couldn't just save a file and then go back and open that, because then that would be opening it up from a save state where we didn't already have the ending we just got. So this is the one thing where you can actually not have to play all the way from the beginning, because continue starts you off from the very last room you were in right before you died, or right before you entered the room where you automatically die. So, but in this case, that room was the elevator, and literally the only choice we had made was which floor to go to. So this time go to floor 2, and that's going to be what takes us to the D ending. And you're going to see why we couldn't have done the D ending first if we wanted to be able to do this. So it's because in the D ending, we then have this whole hallway to go through first to get to here. So continue would have taken us back to that hallway, I'm pretty sure. So we would have been too late. And so we see Miss Mary, but in this playthrough, we don't know anything about her that she's evil. Like, we don't know that she's wants to kill us. And so we just trust her and run right up to her. So yeah. Now, there is a plot hole here, and I don't know if it's just a translation in this version or if it's a translation even in the original version, but I think it might be in all the versions. in this ending, one of the important things about it is you're not supposed to know that Miss Mary is a part of the family, of the Barrows family, and the cult that the Barrows family represents and is. But when you put on the perfume, you put that on to get past the dog, specifically because it smells like Mary's perfume. So that's kind of a plot hole that I only just noticed on this playthrough. Of all the times I've ever played, I had not noticed that. But I was like, wait, but why would you know that? Why would you think that was a way to avoid the dog if you didn't know the figure in the black robe was Mary? Which Jennifer's not supposed to know at this point. She's just supposed to know the perfume smells like Mary's, but she's not supposed to know that Mary is in on all this. So I just thought that was kind of neat. So anyway, speeding on by to see what we got there. We have the ending rank D. And now our ending list, you can see that E was already on there. So yeah, that saved us a lot of time. We only have 3 more endings to get now before we have them all. And the other endings are actually not going to be too hard to get because for the F ending, we're mostly going to do all the same stuff we did for the D and E ending. So that's going to mean that we can really rush through it. Just make a beeline for the end that way, except with one difference. The one difference is that after you've passed the dog, you won't go forward past this cave. You'll just go straight into the cave. Do not go on and see Lot dying at the end of the corridor there. So once you do that, just do everything else as you normally would, and then just go onto the elevator at the end. After you've killed Dan, and this is really the last step you have to take to get the F ending. And that's it. In this case, F definitely stands for fatal. So to get the G ending, I recommend just doing Laura's scene as the start. It'll make this much easier. If you do it this way, you actually don't have to get any keys or anything along the way. So you don't even have to stop in the master bathroom to get the perfume. You don't have to check for the key in the living room. So yeah, start with Laura, and then it'll be much easier to do the second thing you need to do. After you hide from Scissorman, and a good convenient place to hide from Scissorman is right here in the car, in the garage, which is, again, just past the hallway where you go to the kitchen. After coming out of hiding, just go to the scream hallway on the first floor. You don't need a key to go into that hallway. You only need a key for the other end. You'll just wander around in this hallway until you hear the scream. Look out the hallway to see the death of Anne. So after you've seen the death of 2 of your friends, but you haven't seen the death of Lot, find the car key in that chest, like you just saw, well, in that crate. Use it on the car. Well, right now I haven't used it on the car, actually. But, yeah, so now doing it the right way, get the car key, use it on the car, and Jennifer will get into the car, but she's worried about this because she knows she can escape, but she knows that the other girls are out there and that they still need help. And actually, I don't know why she says girls in this case. I guess a minor oversight. But Lot is still out there. She knows this. So should she just leave her behind? She hasn't confirmed that she's dead. So leaving would be a little bit of a cowardly thing to do. But go ahead and keep clicking on the car with the car key. And Jennifer speeds off. And after the credits roll, Jennifer driving off from the mansion. And then Jennifer returned to the orphanage. 3 days later, she was found dead in her own room. So yeah, it's kind of mysterious actually, the G ending, because what it makes you wonder about is, was she killed, or did she kill herself out of the grief of leaving a friend behind? Uh, Especially since that friend will always have to be Lot at that point in time. I'm pretty sure. It might be possible that it could be one of the others, but Lot's always considered to be her best friend. So anyway, so now that's ending G. Let's go with ending H, which is actually incredibly similar. It's almost identical to getting ending G, but the only thing is, after you've hidden from Scissorman for the first time, don't go and find your other friend. Don't witness another death after that. So you've only witnessed one death at this point in time. And go ahead and get the car key immediately after you've hidden from Scissorman for the first time. And again, we're going to escape. But this time, of course, Jennifer's going to worry about leaving her friends behind. And this time, it's all her friends except for one, because she's only witnessed one death. For all she knows, the other friends could be in danger. They could be, alive. She could have done something. So, it's a more selfish decision than it was even in the ending before this. So, uh, we'll see what happens to us for making that decision this time. It's starting off the same way, and we have the same screen there, but now after the credits go, we have a different ending to it. And so there it is, really kind of classic horror movie kind of thing with the killer rising up in the back seat. So ending H. And so with that, you actually have all the endings, and it's been a good doing it. I'm glad to be back into this. I've been very glad to do this guide here. It's awesome to have all the endings cleared in the list. This is actually, I hadn't had them all cleared yet either, because I wanted to do it while I made this guide. So thanks so much for watching this guide. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this little walk through Clock Tower nostalgia, if any of you that have played it before, and for any of you who are just playing it for the first time and using this guide, or just using this guide to witness Clock Tower, to kind of see everything that's going on in it just out of curiosity. I am just grateful that you're here watching this and sharing this with me, because this game, like I said at the beginning, it has so much history for me. It's great. So I hope you all have enjoyed it, and I do want to mention something though. So you might be curious, what about that car scene if you actually do see Lot die? Because you can see her die in the shed, remember? So the thing is, then the garage is empty. The car's not there. It's just removed. So the one time you could have left without it being a selfish decision in any way, the car's not available. So that's the answer to the mystery there. So thank you again, and I hope you come around next time for the next guide I make.